Welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan Steele, and I will be your nerd today. And every other day that you decide to watch my goofy little TV show, my YouTube show, or if you stop and visit me at TikTok or any of the other places that we might be on. Here, I'm going to turn on my little weird light thing here. That might help fight some of the ridiculous glare that's coming off of that light. Let's see. So, I hope everybody's having a good week. Getting closer to, here in the States, getting closer to Thanksgiving. Which I know a lot of us, we're not really going to see a whole lot of family and everything because of, trying to eliminate this whole pandemic thing. But it will be worth it. It will be 100% worth it. Let's see. Weekend Bryan. I got hiccups. Great. Drink from my trusty Gen Con cup. This was such a good idea, by the way. So the last Gen Con, they had these heavy duty plastic Gen Con cups that you would buy your first drink in. And like a lot of places, you could bring them back for refills and things like that. And the refills were cheaper, but also they were when you turned them in, if you wanted to, there was a place that you could turn them in, and basically you got like a deposit back kind of sort of thing. Or if you didn't care about the extra $3 or whatever, you got a really cool, very unique heavy duty tumbler that you now have as a souvenir. I thought it was a great idea, and I hope that they keep doing that. Whether or not they do different cups every year like Gary Con does, or if they do the same cups because they've got a bazillion of them left over from that show or whatever, I don't even care. I just think it's a really good idea. It's it cuts down on plastic waste. It makes it way easier for people at the show to maintain their hydration, even if it is just a bunch of soda that they're drinking. It's just a good idea, and I love it. And it makes me every time I take a sip, I remind myself, or I remember what it was like to have conventions. Okay, so let's see what was this week in gaming like, or this week in Bryan. Well, I got to play 40K, or not 40K, D&D last week. And it is official. My Tabaxi dancing monk with the Way of Rhythm and Flow is starting to, as long as my dice don't betray me, he's really starting to come into his own. We fought two hill giants, and I was able to do in both of those fights pretty regularly, anywhere between like 20 to 25 damage around, with all of my little it was pretty cool. So I'm excited, and it was a good session. We got to save the day. We had a little character momentum, little moment of some growth between a few of the party members. It was just good. It was a good session. Short. It was a short session, but it was still a good session. We are sadly taking this week off, so we don't get to see the kind of the results of what we did until next week. But it'll be okay, because it's going to give me a night to kind of kick back and relax with the wife and not be tied to the computer for an entire evening, like I do pretty much all the rest of the time. Let's see what else. I need to get over and do some painting and some stuff. I've got some commissions coming down the pipe that I really need to get cracking on. There's a client of mine from Southern Indiana that I am going to be painting a bunch of Death Guard for, and a handful of Thousand Suns. So I need to get myself geared up for that and get the current thing off of my desk and move on to the next. I also need to get my laptop in the shop so we can go back to using the hobby rig and actually have another hobby episode, because those are always a lot of fun. Let's see what else. A lot of work. Got a lot of work going on. We have a meeting scheduled for next week to discuss my next Shadowrun novel. Spycraft is moving along at a normal pace. Power Rangers role-playing game is moving along at a breakneck pace. We're getting a lot of work done on that one. That's coming together real nice. I think that fans of the show are going to eat it up with a spoon. And I think just role players in general, when they look at what we've created, especially down the road as more things are revealed, I think this is going to be bigger than what initially some people believed. Because there's still a lot of people that are saying that oh hey, that's that isn't the audience we're aiming for, that kind of thing, like kind of in intercompany discussions. And I don't know. I think this is gonna hit squarely in a particular pocket, and people are gonna want to play because of how different it is from other games, and the fact that it's got that kind of team building factor that even fantasy role playing games don't really generally have that reinforcement factor. So I'm excited about. Like I said, I'm really jazzed. In that same vein, oddly enough, Renegade, the guys who have hired us to do the Power Rangers game, just announced that they also got a hold of the World of Darkness. Now, the World of Darkness started out as a White Wolf product way back in the 90s. And it was amazing. I have, somewhere around here, I still have a lot of those books. Thousands of dollars worth of Vampire and Mage and Changeling and Wraith. Never got into and Werewolf, not Mage. I don't know why I said Mage. Mage is like the one that I bought like the main rulebook for. That was about it. I even got into a bunch of the weird kind of outlying games like Mummy and Hunter, but there was so much that world, almost too much, that eventually White Wolf as a company kind of stopped. They sort of petered out, and then they got picked up by a new White Wolf or Onyx Path or Paradox. There's so many different companies that had their fingers into it that I kind of lost track. And then just recently they came out with, like last year, they came out with Vampire 5th Edition, which was a slight adjustment. It's not really a slight. It was a pretty broad adjustment to the world. But it still had a lot of the same feel, and the system that they put together was really, really good. It was a really good, like, very narrative system that they had done to create characters and things. Well, last I had heard, they had announced that they were going with, I believe it was like, what was it? The Hunter Publishing Group. It's Ivan Norman's company. I thought that they were producing it, but Onyx Path was still backing. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but they had said they were going to do a Werewolf 5th Edition, and I love capital L Werewolf the Apocalypse. I loved it early on. I loved it when it was, when there were some adventures that, or some splat books that came out that made it feel like a D&D dungeon crawl. I loved when they put out with the Dark Ages version of it. Werewolves in medieval times. It was such a great setting. It was so good. And when they said they were doing a 6th edition or a 5th edition of it, I was over the moon. I was like, oh my god, I gotta get involved. I sent out a bunch of emails. I never heard back from anybody, and I just assumed that it was because they already had people picked or whatnot. Well, fast forward to now, and Renegade, the company who has hired me to do the Power Rangers game, now is in charge of doing a bunch of stuff for the World of Darkness. So while I can't say for sure that I'm gonna just put my hands in the air and be like, please let me do whatever I can do. I am gonna say that I'm gonna try real hard to get on that werewolf team and put my fingerprints in the World of Darkness. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. One, I love the World of Darkness. I think it's a great setting. It's an awesome collective set of game worlds that kind of all put together into this horrible gray ennui morass. But also it's a great system, especially what they've done with Vampire 5. I think that the other systems that will fall that should fall in line on the way through will hopefully, if anybody who's in charge is smart about it, they'll try and follow suit with a lot of the same things they did with Vampire 5, but then have their own flavor involved. It's awesome. It's just a really cool setting and a really cool game system, and I am very fortunate that Renegade now is apparently in charge of putting out products for it. So I don't know what that means. I know that it means that I have a lot of emails to send, but we'll see how that goes. So that was just announced. Let's see, anything else that needs to be GaryCon for 2021 just announced that they are not doing the physical version of the convention. They are only going to do the digital version, which is a bummer. I mean, it's good for everybody to be safe and not let the virus spread. But I will say that it is kind of a bummer. I was hoping that maybe things would be cleaned up a little bit by then, and we might be able to have a sit-down convention. But it is what it is. I'd rather everybody be healthy and safe and gaming from afar through our webcams than be forced into potentially dangerous situations where we are being selfish and not trying to eliminate this stupid virus. So what are you gonna do? I don't know if that means I'll be painting a model for it or anything because it's a digital. I don't know whether or not they're even going to have a GaryCon model this year. There's a lot of up in the air. We just don't know. We just don't know. So on GaryCon, I had something just 1 second ago. I was thinking about it. Oh man. Talking about GaryCon, talking about Yep, I completely spaced it. I lost what I was going to say. I hate that. I hate when that happens. But yeah, so that's pretty much the week in Bryan. I mean, like, it hasn't been a bad week. It's been a good week. It's been a solid week. It's been a happy week. It definitely hasn't been too busy of a week. I mean, I've gotten a lot done. That's what it was. So just yesterday, I did an interview with Dave over at miniwargaming.com for his podcast, The Shrine of Chaos. And it was a lot of fun. It was neat. Again, I've never met a microphone I don't like, but it was neat to answer some questions from viewers that were on their Twitch stream. And then even some kind of after we got off of the live, I talked to Dave a little bit, and he asked me a few things here and there about projects that I've worked on, that sort of thing, and that's always fun. I always enjoy doing that kind of thing, getting to talk to people about my past or the past of what it's like to try and be a freelancer and the ups and downs therein. And hell, it's the reason why I started this channel almost 2 years ago. It's just it's nice. It's a good way of trying to get the next generation of professional nerds out there and professional game designers and developers and things to realize how hard it is, that it's not just, playing games and having a good time all the time. Sometimes it's a business. You got to make decisions. You got to weigh out those options. You got to decide whether or not it's something that you can afford to do at that particular moment. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I know you can go to Shrine of Chaos on, I think he said Twitch, Instagram, and Facebook. I know they have a Twitter, but I don't know if he put the video up on there. But either way, it was a good time. We answered answered some questions, got to discuss some things with an audience that I had that maybe doesn't know me directly. It was just nice. And then before I move into today's topic, I'll explain why I'm moving into it. It's actually part of that mini wargaming podcast that moved into it. So during the podcast, during the Twitch stream, I was asked a few different questions, and several of them I managed to get to. Several of them I was able to answer, and then before we had to move on to the next segment or something like that. But there was one that was asked that I never really got to answer, and it got me thinking. And that was they had asked, if I could, if I could design any kind of game, and guarantee that it was going to happen, and I had all the resources in the world, what would I do? Like, what game would I do? And I didn't get a chance to answer that, but I did kind of set it away back in my head, didn't really think about it until later. But then I went to go and check Facebook, saw that some people asked me some questions there. But one of the things that struck me is there was another thread that opened up on the Warzone community page, and that someone had basically asked me the same kind of question. What would you do with the Warzone license if money was no object and if time was no object and that sort of thing? And so that was I was able to answer that question on a Facebook page, a couple paragraphs wide, but it was nice to be able to get that off my chest and be like, all right, this is what I would like to do. So that way, as fans, they know what to expect from me. If I'm given the right amount of rope and the right amount of resources, I'm going to be able to do that. Or hopefully be able to do that, and that's what I'll be aiming at. And so what that did is it actually made me kind of open up my brain, and so I asked on, I believe it was on Twitter, might be Instagram, but I'm pretty sure I asked on Twitter, basically, give me 10 questions about my possible future as a game designer. And there were a few of them there were a few responses that were crass, the unnecessary, that I'm not going to answer. And there were a few that were a little too on the nose, a little too close to home that I don't feel like answering because it might be a little too revealing about personal stuff. But I did get a handful of them where people were asking me about specific things of what would I do if I were the designer in charge of X, of this particular license or this particular game or whatever. And so what I did is that I asked a couple of friends of mine, and they helped me come up with 10 of those what would I do questions. And I've always phrased these as if I had a genie, if I had like a magical genie that would let me, do a magical gamer genie where it's like you're not limited in the number of wishes you have so long as they're gamer related or whatever. And so I came up with 10 of them between me and my friend that I think are going to be pretty interesting and hopefully interesting for you guys to hear the answers to, because that's what I wanted today to be, is what if Bryan found a gamer genie? So, the number one question is, what would I do? And this one actually came from several people. Is, what if I were given the genie the genie to do, bing, make the wish? What would I do for 40K? For Warhammer 40,000. And I've been asked this a couple of different times, and I only recently kind of found the answer that I firmly believe. Like, it'd be easy for me to say, oh, I would love to do something for my Necrons. You know, come up with like a Forge World book full of Necron stuff or something like that. Or revamp the Tyranids, because I like them, but I think they've strayed very far from the original concept. You know, they're almost about too many either little tiny things or giant big things. There's not enough actual like elite soldiers anymore, or something. I don't know. You know, there's a part of me that says I would love to do a Space Sharks, a Kakaradons supplement, for the Space Marines. But what wins out every time of when I set to thinking of if I could do anything I want, I would bring squats back. So for the people who don't play 40K, squats were an alien race that, for absolutely all intents and purposes, they're space dwarves. There's no question. They're short, stocky, bearded dudes that were not very quick on their feet, but they were very good at building machines. They had lots of cool guns and armor, interesting tanks, you know, artillery. They were space dwarves. And somewhere around the late 90s, GW decided that they were going to discontinue squats. They weren't going to make any squats anymore, and they wrote them out of the story by saying that the Tyranids, this Tyranid hive fleet, I think it was Leviathan, came in and swept over the squat world, devouring all life from it, eating everything, and they basically said that squats no longer exist in 40K. They have been eaten by the Tyranids. They don't exist anymore. And that always bummed me out, because it meant that I had a small army, but an army nonetheless that I couldn't use. Not without being, this is a game we're playing in the past, you know, but they were never going to get new rules. They were never going to get updated fluff-wise. We were never going to see, you know, the aftermath of a squat siege against an orc empire or something like that. You know, that these were the things that I felt suddenly, that kind of great amount of loss that the squats, because the squats weren't going to be no more. Well, fast forward to, you know, just a couple months ago, we were looking through the Necromunda book, and I was not just shocked, but like completely set aback and happy that there's like 3 different squat characters. Like 2 of them are special characters, and one is like just a regular guy, I think, like a regular hireling. But anyway, there are squats living in Necromunda, like a squat community living somewhere on this hive world of Necromunda. And that made me think of ways that squats could still be a viable army, a viable race, a viable species, a viable codex. And I think it'd be cool that, you know, because when a hive fleet comes into territory and starts scouring the life from worlds, the high-tech races, the Space Marines, the Imperial Guard, squats at the time, they would know that this is coming. It's not like it was, you know, suddenly one day they woke up and there's gene stealers in their garden, yeah, which sounds like a hilarious children's book. There's gene stealers in my garden. But they, instead of having that, they just sort of swept in and took over and demolished everything. And it doesn't make much sense that there should be some kind of early warning system. Scouts should have said something. And I love the concept in my brain that the squat hegemony, whoever is in charge, I don't remember what kind of, I want to say that they were a republic, But either way, basically, all the people who are in charge of the squats go, we've got to get off this planet. We're going to take, the top 10% of our population, and we're going to put them in these ships, and we are going to launch out into space the long way. We're not going to go into the warp. We're not going to go through the Empyrean. We are just going to hit the gas and get out of Dodge. And that basically, you kind of get that Battlestar Galactica feeling of there are only 4,362 squats remaining in the universe that we know of, and they are all on these like 3 giant dreadnought cruisers that are packed with guns, packed with robotic servitors, and just the kind of ships that you just don't mess with, even if you are a Tyranid bio ship. You go, I'm gonna go home. I'm not gonna fight up against those things. And you have these ships basically floating through the space between galaxies, which normally requires you to have to use the warp to travel that way, and instead these vessels get kind of caught up in like the ebb and flow of time, and you're sighted every once in a while. Every once in a while, like one of these squat ships appears, but it disappears shortly thereafter, starting all kinds of crazy rumors. But basically, at the end of the day, you are a bunch of your army, or the 40K squat codex is based around the fact that the remnants of your republic are all on these ships, traveling around trying to avoid being eaten. And then you can give them like it's kind of like the Tyrannic War veterans for Ultramarines that have bonuses against Tyranids. You could do the same kind of thing with some squats, But basically, if I were given my my ability to do so, I would do a squat codex and explain that they have come back. They've toured the space between not universes, but the space between solar systems. They've been to the Great Void. They've come back, and while they were out there, they've discovered new technologies, so we can have some cool new guns and things like that for them. But then basically just introduce a new race. And I think it'd be awesome. So that's my if GW if my genie could make GW, give me a job. And now that's specifically a 40K supplement question. There was someone that asked what would I do as a general Games Workshop suggestion. That's a little harder, because there's a part of me that says, I would love to make something awesome for Age of Sigmar, like either a new army or a new way to field one of the old armies, a different paint job or whatever. But what ended up happening is I would love to bring back the Spirers for Necromunda. Specifically, new rules to bring them in line with the new Necromunda feel, but also new models, because those models are old and busted. But it'd be really cool to have like a Forge World box set of like, I don't know, 6 models, like one of this guy, 2 of this guy, and a matriarch or whatever. I think that would be fantastic, to bring those cats back in to come up with new ways. So again, if you aren't familiar with old Necromunda, the Spirers are basically super high-tech bounty hunters that aren't bounty hunters. They're more like the rich kids from The Purge. They live up in their lofty castles and their clans and families, and every so often they'll get together for dinner and basically make bets and place wagers and discuss, well, my 2 sons and our cousin are going down into the Spire, and they think that they're going to get 4 confirmed kills. And like the visiting families like, oh really? My son will go with them and he'll get 3 by himself. Like they basically go hunting the Necromunda gangs for sport and for bragging rights to come back up to the top of the spire to make their families more powerful and expand their socio-political influence. And I always thought that while sick and twisted, a very cool thing to do in Necromunda. Now this next question, this is something that I feel it's almost a little cheaty because of what it is. Is someone had asked, what would I do if I were able to produce stuff for Dark Age again? And the immediate answer is just make enough product that can be out there and sold in distribution and get back on its feet. Knowing that that's not exactly what they intended as a question, the question was more like, what would I create next? I would have just followed my business plan. I was going to add some more Earthcast guys. There's going to be a smattering of other forces. Get a couple of bonus guys, and the next big event was going to be the Kukulkani Civil War, where the Cult of the Sun and the Cult of the Moon go head to head and basically split down the middle over who gets to take over this world. And what that was going to do is there were going to be troops for each unit, or troops for each side. Like there would be a couple of units that are designed specifically for the Sun Cult. There'd be a couple of units specifically designed for the Moon Cult. But overall, what you would be getting, or what you would have to do, is your army, your Kukulkani, every other soldier, with very few exceptions, would have 2 cards. They would have a Sun Cult card and a Moon Cult card, basing on what you're deciding, what are you playing at that time. And, it almost gave you two armies for the price of one, but each one had their own, strengths and weaknesses and whatnot. And that's what I was going to do. Is I was basically gearing up for the Kukulkani Civil War, and by the time that was over, we should have been ready to look at what had happened with the Dragiri and the new Grand Arbiter and the deals that the Shadow Cast had made with the Scarred. We would have been able to get into that kind of stuff shortly thereafter, and that's what I would have done. I would have followed my original path, just kept acted as if nothing had changed, and get us eventually to a very, very cool point in the story. And goes hand in hand with that question is, what would I have done if I was able to do anything with Wrath of Kings? So the plans for Wrath of Kings actually were already kind of set. We were going to start making cavalry, which were basically kind of like rank 2.5. They're not quite rank 3 super soldiers, but they're definitely better than a regular rank 1 or rank 2, and infinitely better than a rank 1. They were going to have their own cool special rules, like how fast they can go. They would get free movement at the beginning of the turn. There was just a lot of really cool stuff, and some of the cavalry ideas were so cool. The Hadros, the underwater people, their cavalry was going to basically be kind of lobster centaurs, where the horse part of the cavalry is this giant segmented tail body, and then the armored person up front is this sort of like lobster armored, merman looking dude who's got no legs because his legs blend in with the rest of the crustacean. So that was going to be that cavalry. We were going to have the servants of the vampires. I can't remember what they're called for the life of me. Those guys were going to be on horseback, like old school Dracula style horseback crossbowman kind of thing. It was cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff that was being planned for. House Nasir was going to have horses with masks because that's their thing. And then on top of the cavalry, there would also be rank 3 specialists. And rank 3 specialists were going to be the Wrath of King's equivalent of bringing like an Imperial Knight to a 40k table. Not unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination, but pretty tough, fighting on its own, and you gotta either hang tight or get out of the way. Let's see, what else? Oh, we started getting... Here we go. This was a question that if... Because I play the Star Wars Legion miniatures game with the clone troopers, and I was asked, what would I... If I could do anything, what would I do to that game? And I had to think long and hard on that, because there's so much stuff already out for it. There's so much stuff that's coming out for it, that I didn't want to be like, well, this is what I would do, and then 6 months later it happens, and I go, oh, sad. What I would do for the Star Wars Legions game is I would probably invent a 5th army. 5th and 6th, perhaps. Whether it is like the, the Enforcers of the Hutts, or, dig into one of the obscure Star Wars races that is from current canon, make them a conglomerate, where they've got different units, like a unit of Rhodians and a unit of Twi'leks and a unit of Boss of Transitions. There's so much stuff that can be done, because that's such a huge world. But that's what I would do, is I basically would try to expand Legion in a way that befits all of the existing armies, as well as new players that are looking to, get into that game and throw some dice around. So that's what I would do for Star Wars. What I would do for D&D, what I would love to, my what if D&D is easy. I would love to do an official 5e Spelljammer sourcebook. Whether it's got an adventure arc in it, or if it's just a source book, would be fine. I just really want to be the one... I would love to be the one that makes Spelljammer attached to the different worlds, explaining how that can happen. It'd just be so much fun. I love Spelljammer as a system, and I think it'd be really cool to start shaking things up using Spelljammer as kind of a motive, or as a tool for that kind of shakeup. The next one's actually a little more pertinent too, because of recent things. Is what I do for the World of Darkness. Well, anything for starters, but in all honesty, what I would do for World of Darkness is I would love to focus on a book that is made about the outside shifters, the Goral, the werebears, the different eastern were creatures. All the way down to the bestial stalkers that can't shapeshift because they aren't really completely werewolf, but they've got a lot of werewolf tendencies. That would be cool. But more than anything, I would love to do a book on shifters. I would love to do a book on the Goral, the Bastet, the Mokole, all the way down to the mysterious dude in the back of the building, who then comes forward and is like, okay, I'm a were-hyena. What? The Ashaba. There's so much stuff in the world that could be turned into an unbelievably cool NPC/PC/plot point. That's what I would want to focus on for World of Darkness. The next one's kind of a cop-out. It's what would I do if I could write fiction for anybody? If I could write fiction for anybody, it would probably be Star Wars. If that company got a hold of me and was like, we want you to write a novel based on something, I would love to show the off years of Boba Fett. You know, the after he got out of the Sarlacc pit, stopped wearing his armor, and started surviving as a hermit. I would love to do. I was just thinking about it 2 seconds ago. Oh hell, I can't remember what I was gonna say. The what happened to Darth Maul between getting his robot legs and then appearing later on in Rebels. I think that the Crimson Dawn, his criminal organization that he was running, would be fantastic as a group of players infiltrating his system, in his organization. It'd be just fantastic. So there's all kinds of different things that I would want to write, but I think if I got the chance to write Star Wars specifically, or something about Star Wars, I would probably focus on the the fact that Luke saves the day, but there's so many places that he is not the one that is he's the one being saved just as often as how much he saves other people. And I think that would be a cool story to show one of the main characters not in the superhero light. Let's see, next one. Oh, next one's easy. What would I do if I had free reign with Transformers? Well, first off, I'd make a miniatures game. I already have designed a miniatures game and looking for someone to buy it, but that's what I would do. Is I would make a very elaborate, very action-packed, low model count miniatures game for Transformers, because that would be fantastic. That would be so good. Then the last question that I've actually got written down is I was talking to somebody, and I had said something about how Night Models really dropped the ball with their new Batman rules, and that the DC Universe game, I wish that it was a little more balanced, because then I would be playing that like crazy, because I love those models, I love the world, I loved the system, but their hiccups are what they are. But I think that if I was given the okay to do anything, that would be one of the first steps. Would be to fix Night Models issue. I feel that DC as a universe has got more to offer the average author than Marvel does, or any of those other companies do. And if I had to pick a comic book company to work with, because I love them to death, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to make an amazing DC game. It is one of the things that I think Marvel dropped the ball on, or rather, the company Atomic Mass, I think, is the company that makes it. The what's it called? Oh my gosh, losing it. What's it called? Oh, my Marvel Crisis Protocol. I've got my issues with Crisis Protocol. I don't like the scale they're using. I think that the models are put together unbelievably stupidly, but gorgeous when they're done. I would like to see something similar in that scope, as far as 4 or 5 superheroes on a side versus 4 or 5 supervillains or henchmen or whatever. And I think that one of the ways to make that game work is the way that the reason why Marvel Crisis Protocol does not, in my opinion, work is because when you reduce the number of models on the field, you should make the rules more action-packed, more inclusive when it comes to what other things we can do. And I would like to see a game that has a little more push and pull to it, a little more, maybe when you build an army, instead of just grabbing 4 random dudes out of your army list and seeing if the points match up, is, maybe you have to take a couple of fillers, and in the middle of every third game round or whatever, there's a whistle that blows and you gotta yell switch so someone else gets to take over. Whatever. I just really love the world. DC Comics as a universe is amazing. It is the one thing that I know does not that it is impossible. If I'm being immersed in awesome DC Comicsness, almost nothing can get through that shield of happy, and I'm just like enjoying it. I don't know. I just think that Marvel Crisis Protocol falls short. If you have fewer models in your game, they should be able to do more things. You shouldn't have to dumb it down even further when you only have 2 or 3 guys to a side. Your guys should be able to do a ton of different things because you only have 4 of them to do things with. That's pretty much all the questions that I received from my friends and from the people that I asked on Twitter and everything. If that makes any sense. I hope it does. I know I've bombarded you with all kinds of stuff tonight, and it's been a lot of flow of consciousness and what I would do if I had my genie. Know this, that I might say, I want to do this, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that, I want to do this. Don't take that the wrong way. I am very happy with all of the things that I'm doing right now, and I cannot wait for some of these things for you to see. My layout person is officially starting my DMs Guild project tomorrow, which is already written and playtested, just needs to get laid out and put into the DMs Guild. I'll let you guys know when that happens. I've picked up a couple of new playtesters for my monster supplement. It's good stuff. It's, again, work doesn't have to be work if you do the right thing at the right time. If you are putting yourself out there and putting your ideas out there to make sure that things gel together with your gaming group and possibly even with strangers, whatever the case may be, we are happy. We're happy that that you've figured out what you need to figure out. You've got it under control, and hopefully, as time progresses, so will I. I don't know. We'll see. Things are crazy. I know a lot of wishes were made in this video. No genies were harmed in the making of this video. What I would like you guys to do for my next week's show, if there is a topic that you would like me to cover, I would love for you to drop it in the comments so I could see it and possibly plan on next week, maybe even trying to get a guest on if it's somebody who's in in relation to the request of why are we sailing, that sort of thing. I would like to know what you guys want me to do. I know that sounds weird. I know, and that's out there. I would love for a bunch of topic options, questions. Maybe next week can be a little more free form like this one, where it's a lot of questions being answered. Or maybe you leave a fantastic comment and it's this unbelievably cool topic and it grabs me by the brain and I'm like, yep, that's gonna happen. I don't know what the case may be or what the future will bring, but that's what I would like you guys to do. Even if you just take like 10 minutes out of your life, go into the comment section and come up with a cool idea that when we sail our ship next week, that we've got an awesome destination or such an unbelievably awesome, boat full of treasured ideas that I will be able to pick from the lot and make everybody happy. I don't know what else to say. It's been crazy. It's been great. It's been good. I cannot wait until some of this stuff that is still in the digital format, comes out for the world to see. And more than anything, I just really want everybody to go out there. Please be safe. Please enjoy yourself. But first of all, be safe. Don't be selfish. And get out there and play some games. That's what I'm saying. You know who you are.